Hello, I'm Jean Otalor and welcome to a special end-of-year edition of Focus on Africa, looking back at some of the best work from our team of correspondents and producers across the continent in 2018. Coming up, seeking sanctuary, people with albinism have found a safe haven from discrimination and violence in Tanzania. Making a meal of it in Senegal. Fishermen's livelihoods are under threat as firms harvest the ocean of the local catch, all to make fish food.
Every year we get less and less fish. Everybody is aware that there is no fish in our waters.
What's in a name? We discover why countless babies in one area of Liberia have been called Alice over the past 3 decades. And putting his best foot forward, meet the banker turned shoemaker determined to put his own print on the industry. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. We begin in Tanzania, where for years people living with albinism have been treated like second-class citizens. The condition means their skin, hair and eyes have little colour. The myths surrounding albinism are a huge problem. People are killed for their body parts as it's wrongfully believed these will bring success and wealth. But this year, many of those with the condition have found a sanctuary on a remote island on Lake Victoria. Munera Hussein reports.
Sunrise over the island of Ukerewe, and the day ahead looks bright. However, this may not put a smile on the face of some of the people living here, who have a genetic condition which causes their skin, hair and even eyes to be too sensitive to the sun because of an absence of melanin pigment in their skin. But that is not their only worry. Many fear being physically attacked and even murdered by those around them, even their own relative. All because they believe potions made from their body parts can bring good luck and wealth. Eliza came to this island in 2013 after her uncle attempted to kill her, but fortunately she managed to escape.
I had peace at home until my uncle tried to kill me to get money by selling my body parts. But I was lucky and decided to report him. That's why I came here, where we can walk confidently and freely, day and night.
Ukerewe Island has become a place of refuge for albinos in Tanzania compared to other parts of the country, which people believe is because the water around the island serve as a sort of deterrent for criminals.
More than 100 albino families living here in Ukerewe Island. And according to Ukerewe Albino Society, half of them came from different parts of Tanzania, escaping from brutality and killings. But despite of them being safe here, they claim that discrimination still exists.
According to Tanzania Albinism Society, at least 180 cases of albino attack have been documented in recent years, and 76 people have been killed. Alex Magaga is the manager for Standing Voice, an NGO which operates on the island and helps people with albinism. He believes that social inclusion is the key to helping people with albinism integrate with their particular community.
Sisi tuna promote social inclusion in integration.
We promote integration so people with albinism can stay in their community. Society must be educated to understand that albinism is just a skin condition and that they are people, just like anybody else, and that anyone could be born with albino genes.
The Tanzanian government have tried to tackle this issue by convicting people who have been associated with the crimes. But some people living with albinism still feel more has to be done. Munera Hussein, BBC News, Ukerewe.
Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, there's only one free ambulance service that will come to your aid if you need help. Amin Ambulances was hugely important in 2017 when the city was hit by its deadliest bomb attack. But this year, it's been faced with financial difficulties and struggling to survive. Our reporter Ahmed Aden went to meet the team.
Waiting for an emergency call, which could come from anywhere in Mogadishu. The Amin Ambulance Service team are ready to help one and all, from women going into labor to those injured in bomb attacks or by stray bullets. These volunteers operate a fleet of 16 ambulances without government support. The vehicles were bought second-hand from Dubai for around $5,000 each. But now, financial pressures as Amin struggles to find donors could mean the end of the only free ambulance service in Somalia's capital.
We are trying to save this service for as long as we can. We go to people who know us and ask for help with petrol, tires, even $1 can help. I'm a university lecturer. I often ask students to donate money to help save a life. When I get my salary, before I pay my bills, I always think of Amin Ambulance. I even ask my friends for money. We will continue this work even if we only have one ambulance left.
October 14 in Mogadishu last year saw the deadliest attack in Somalia's history. A truck bomb exploded, killing 587 people and wounding over 300. Amin Ambulance was stretched to capacity. Many of the injured were ferried to hospitals in private cars without first aid support. Bile Adam Farah was one of the lucky ones, collected by an Amin ambulance and later taken to Turkey for treatment. He said they saved his life.
When the metal hit my head, I fell down and fainted. I was bleeding when the ambulance arrived. They performed first aid until we reached the hospital. Honestly, they stopped me from bleeding to death.
It is not only financial challenges that stand in the way of Amin's ability to function in the capital. Lack of adequate roads prevents ambulances from reaching certain areas of the city during emergencies.
The roads are very poor, either full of traffic jams or not managed well. There are no traffic lights and police don't respect ambulances. The central government should set a budget to support the health sector and for the treatment of civilians.
But as the government struggles to provide even the most basic social services, it remains to be seen if any funds can or will become available. In the meantime, these volunteers continue to risk their lives to help save the victims of terror and violence in this fragile city. Ahmed Hassan Adan, BBC News, Mogadishu.
West African waters are some of the richest fishing grounds in the world, but jobs are being lost in the sector due to a lack of policies protecting the industry. In Senegal, the situation has been particularly dire this year, with local fishermen pulling in smaller catches as big companies harvest the ocean. The BBC's Alfonso Daniels went to find out what's behind the drop in fish numbers.
Thousands of traditional boats, called pirogues, in Senegal's oldest fishing community, St. Louis. For generations, this town has fed the nation, but now it's in peril.
It is a disaster. We don't have fish here. Every year we get less and less fish. Everybody is aware that there is no fish in our waters.
The species especially at risk are pelagic or open sea fish like sardinella, which migrates up and down the West African coast. People in this region depend on this once cheap staple for up to 75% of the animal protein.
Everyone you speak to here is truly alarmed by what's happening. The decline of fish stocks here is truly staggering. According to the government, last year the amount of fish caught in these waters declined by 80%. That means that Senegalese fishermen in St. Louis, here and in other parts of the country have to travel far and wide to find fish, even if that means crossing into foreign waters.
For years, artisanal fishermen have cast their nets in the rich waters of neighboring Mauritania, especially as it became harder to catch fish in their own shores. But 2 years ago, the Mauritanians booted them out, and their catch plummeted. Fishermen say they don't have a choice and still cross the border illegally, even if this means risking their lives. Earlier this year, the Mauritanian Coast Guard killed a young fisherman from St. Louis called Falou.
On Sunday, they told me that they went out fishing. The Mauritanian Coast Guard shot them, and a Senegalese fisherman was killed, and it was Falou. They said they shot 9 times, and the 10th bullet hit Falou's neck. He died instantly. Yes, it's tough. It's really tough. Because when I wake up, I sometimes have trouble finding something to give my children for breakfast.
Mauritania says it's trying to protect its resources and create local jobs. But is this true? Across the border in this vast desert state, we found a surprising sight. Endless rows of fish meal plants turning fish into powder and exported mainly to China to feed other fish. And it's mostly made from Sardinella. This is a hungry industry with 5 kilos of fish required to produce just a kilo of fish meal. Critics say, in reality, it creates few local jobs. Most factories are also foreign-owned, and the fish they process is mostly caught by big foreign trawlers. So now, local artisanal fishermen are endangered here too.
Our main problem is overfishing. Foreign trawlers, which are authorized in general to fish small pelagics, but in reality fish everything. The fish they capture ends up being sold abroad or ends up being used to produce fish meal or fish oil. This impacts traditional fishermen enormously.
Last year, Mauritania turned almost half its catch into fish meal. There are now some 30 of these plants across the country. This is production on an industrial scale. Back in St. Louis, fishermen bide their time. With the mounting struggle to survive, many of them are making a fateful choice: to stay and hope for the best, or join the exodus of migrants trying to reach Europe. The Atlantic off West Africa was once one of the world's richest fisheries, providing jobs and feeding millions of people across the region. But if a solution isn't found to the massive plunder of these waters, they and the communities they support could soon be effectively empty.
Now, with almost 11,000 women behind bars in Kenya, many of them living in extremely tough conditions, you might not think yoga would be high on the agenda, but the ancient exercise is being taught to female inmates on a weekly basis at one prison. And organisers say it has a powerful impact on those who take part. The BBC's Anne Gugi has more.
At Machakos Prison, southeast of Nairobi, the inmates are getting ready for their yoga class. It's something they look forward to all week.
I've been doing this for a month. It has helped me because I was having back pains. I was even hospitalized. I am healthy now. I can even run.
Volunteer Irene Auma leads the classes.
What makes me happy is bringing life, health, and seeing a prisoner standing in front of everyone and share with a lot of confidence, gaining their self-esteem back into the normal life that they used to be.
The sessions have proved life-saving for some of the women.
I was feeling lonely. I used to isolate myself and didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't know what to tell God. Now I can think about my life. I have found self-love. I appreciate myself.
Machakos prison head defends the project against critics who says inmates should have a hard life in prison.
Prisoners should enjoy yoga just like anybody out there. The fact that they're in prison doesn't mean that they cannot enjoy what others are enjoying out there, because yoga to me is for everybody, irrespective of where you are.
And just for 1 hour, the women can forget where they are and feel free. It's enough to get them through till next week's class and to bring a sense of peace that many of them have not known in their lives. Ann Ngugi, BBC in Kenya.
This is a special edition of Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Jean Otalor. Still to come, catching a new wave. We meet the Moroccan women paddling around their parents' conservative views. I'm Jean Otalor and you're watching a special end-of-year edition of Focus on Africa. Let's turn to Liberia now, where Alice Sumo has been a midwife for 30 years. In that time, she's delivered thousands of babies. Even the civil war and the Ebola outbreak couldn't stop her. She now runs a health centre opened by Save the Children. Earlier this year, the BBC went to meet her.
My name is Alice. My name is Alice. 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 My name is Alice.
My name is Alice. I am a midwife. I have delivered many thousands of babies, and thousands were named Alice after me. Alice. The girls are named Alice, and the boys are named Alice. I knew that some of the babies were going to be named after me, but not let it go wild. It makes me to feel happy. It makes me to feel that I'm part of them.
My name is Alice.
My name is Alice.
I got a grandchild now. Alice gave birth to Alice, and Alice gave birth to another baby. If I'm not going to become a midwife, I don't know how I'm going to be. I'm so grateful to God that I have that opportunity. My name is Alice! Two after two.
Ghana is known for its beautiful textiles and fashion flair, but now a banker turned shoemaker is putting Accra on the map. Fred Digbay's custom-made shoe brand is called Heal the World. This is his story.
I was a banker, had no knowledge on shoemaking and limited resources as well, but that's what spurred me on. It was the challenge, it was the excitement of doing something I was not expected to do and succeeding at it. So for me, even when I started making the shoes, I started with Heal the World, the problem was never the shoemaker, the craftsman. It was the mindset. It was just a general mindset. This cannot be done here. The thing that struck me about that statement was, if we cannot make our own shoes here, when are we going to make our own airplanes? We've taken it a step further with doing some work with the United Nations on the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, just to let people know that a shoemaker, a shoe company can have more of an impact. The thing is, innately, as Africans or as young people, we want to be great. We want to be great, and sometimes we just need to be reminded that it's going to take time. I started off in my dad's garage and have graduated to doing this in my own space. And I just believed as a young entrepreneur, it was better to maximize on what I had in terms of space, in terms of resources, as opposed to paying 2-year rent. So I just believed it was a more prudent business decision to put my 2-year rent into finishing up my house and building another workshop. We have been doing craftsmanship for a long time in Africa. It's something that we do. I think what was missing was showing our traditional crafts and our heritage in a contemporary manner. And that research is what led me to Mansa Musa. So we just went on a journey across Africa trying to find the best hidden craftsmen, the best exotic leathers and things, and develop the Mansa Musa brand. Now it's a made-to-order brand. It takes 3 to 4 months to make a shoe, because it's not just a shoe, it's a piece of royalty. This is a combination of so many different techniques. This here is an ostrich toe cap. And the interesting thing about this ostrich is that it's sourced from a very small village in Zimbabwe, where there's a handful of people that are sustainably raising these ostriches.
Commercial camel farming has seen a huge increase this year in the self-proclaimed Republic of Somaliland. 4 big camel milk dairies have opened in the capital, Hargeisa, and the products are increasingly popular with consumers. Bidan Dahir has been finding out more.
For Somalis, the camel is king, from dowries to deaths.
the camel acts as currency in Somali society. Somaliland's economy has largely been pastoral, but now business people are eyeing the camel market with renewed interest and are hoping to tap into the global camel milk market, which the UN estimates at $10 billion.
Camel trade is doing well. The price of camel is between $300 to $1,000, and the camel got good market here in the city, and also is exported to Saudi Arabia, Gulf countries, and Egypt, and even Syria before the war.
The center of the camel trade in Somaliland is at Hargeisa livestock market, where hundreds of camels are sold to the slaughterhouse every day. But some female traders are unhappy with how women are treated in the industry. They complain of unfair trade practices and that big traders are biased against small business women.
We are not happy they undercut us. They don't pay us on time, but we have to get on with the trade as we don't have any other means to support ourselves.
With the camel market being such a booming trade, traditional nomadic farming methods have been steadily ushered out by privately owned businesses and their modernized farming techniques. Camel milk might not be everyone's taste, but many believe these desert creatures will bring Somaliland's nomadic communities into the economy. Bidan Tahir, BBC News.
Now, surfing is a thrilling and at times dangerous sport, but in some countries it can also represent a battle against a more conservative society. That's exactly the case in Morocco, and in May the BBC's Rana Jawad went to meet the women trying to change the tide of opinion from their surfboards.
The rippling waves of the Atlantic Ocean along western Morocco's coastline have been breaking long-held traditional views on who can enjoy them. The women preparing to surf these shores today are not an uncommon sight, but it was not always a smooth ride. Some have had to delicately paddle around parental approval to get here.
My parents were a little reluctant at first because they don't know anything about this area, but I invited them to accompany me to see how it goes and see my classmates. Now I come here alone. I stay all day and I go home without any problem.
The water sport has come a long way since the 1960s, when it was first introduced by soldiers from a French-American military base not far from the capital, Rabat. Men once dominated surfing in Morocco, but the country held its first international women's surfing contest in 2016. This surf club has more than 40 enthusiasts. The club's president says half of its members are girls.
Parents come and then they bring their daughters on the weekends. They see that we give the necessary equipment, that they are accompanied by instructors, and the families have more trust today.
Like in most North African countries, women have had to fight to break with cultural norms and traditional views influenced by Islamic law for a range of rights and recreational activities.
I hope that all those who have been forbidden by their father or brother to do what they want follow this path, because surfing makes them dynamic and active.
For some of these young women, the waves they wait for will be carrying them for a bit of fun and sport, but they will also give them a ride to Morocco's more tolerant shores. Rana Jawad, BBC News.
Well, that's all from this special edition of Focus on Africa. From me and the entire team here, goodbye.